My parents invited me to a casual lunch, then told me to sit at the bar because the booth's just for immediate family. While my siblings passed fries and laughed, I smiled, walked to the host, and said, "Actually, I made the reservation. Please close out the booth under their name." 20 minutes later, my dad barked, $1,600 for what? Who ordered lobster? The moment my mom texted me, "Let's do a casual lunch, just us," I knew something was off. Casual lunch? With my parents? That phrase was like a clown inviting you into a dark alley, too cheerful to be safe. Still, I showed up. Maybe I wanted to believe they were trying. Maybe I was just bored. The restaurant was one of those places designed to impress the kind of people who confuse price with class. Ocean-themed, glossy menus, a guy at the door who acts like he's guarding a vault instead of a dining room. I arrived early, as usual. Made the reservation under my name because I already knew if I didn't, something would go wrong. I even double-checked it when I got there. 15 minutes later, I spotted them, my mom, dad, my sister Hannah and little brother Josh. All smiles. All dressed like this lunch actually meant something to them. For a second, I thought maybe I'd misjudged. Then they walked right past me, right past the host stand, and my mom said something to the hostess. I couldn't hear exactly what, but the hostess looked confused, then politely nodded. I stood up, waved. My mom glanced at me. And then she said it. "Oh, Fred, we got a booth for immediate family. You can grab a seat at the bar, okay?" It wasn't even cruel. It was casual. Like telling someone the milk's expired. Like I should have known my place. My dad didn't say a word. Hannah smirked. Josh was already flipping through the menu like nothing had happened. I stood there for half a second, processing it. And then I smiled. I walked right up to the host stand. "Actually," I said, "the reservation's under Fred. Can you go ahead and close out the booth under their name?" She blinked at me like I'd spoken another language, then looked back at the tablet. When she found the reservation and saw my name, she nodded. They were seated. They had already ordered drinks. They were mid-conversation when the server came back and told them their booth was now closed out. I watched as they were shuffled off to the bar, where the only available seats were split and noisy. Then I sat down at the booth they'd been so eager to steal from me. And I feasted. Lobster. Oysters. Caviar-topped flatbread. Wine. I didn't even like wine, but I ordered 2 bottles. For the table of 1. I dragged the meal out. Dessert took 40 minutes. The bill, when it came, was obscene. I had it charged to the original card on the reservation, theirs. On my way out, I passed my dad at the front, holding the receipt like it was a court summons. $1,600 for lunch? Who ordered lobster? I didn't look back. Just thanked the hostess and walked out. I figured that'd be the end of it. A petty little win. A minor correction for years of being treated like I was optional. But it wasn't. That was the spark. Because a week later, Hannah called in a panic. Her next tuition payment hadn't gone through. And I didn't answer. The Monday after the lunch incident, I got a text from Hannah. No greeting, no punctuation, just, "Tuition didn't go through. Is there a glitch or something?" It actually made me laugh. Like I was her secretary. Like her world freezing up was just some kind of minor inconvenience on my end. I didn't respond. 2 hours later she called. I watched the phone ring, then flip over to voicemail. 30 minutes after that, my mom tried. Then my dad. Then Hannah again. Eventually, the calls stopped for the day. I figured they'd give it 24 hours and start spinning it into my fault. I was right. Tuesday morning, I got an email from my mom. Not a call. Not a, "Hi honey." An actual formal-sounding email. "Fred, we've been notified that Hannah's tuition payment has not posted. Please advise if there's a processing delay. Please advise." They had no idea I'd cut them off. Not out of spite. Not even really for the booth thing. That was just the final push. The truth is, I'd been funding part of Hannah's college expenses for over a year. Quietly. No recognition. No thank you. They expected it. Worse, they assumed it. Because I had a steady job. Because I didn't have kids. Because to them, I was just the one who could afford it. So I stopped. I removed the payment method. I called the financial office and told them to revoke my access. When they asked if I wanted to notify the student, I said no. That felt good. By Friday, things were unraveling fast. My dad left a voicemail where he tried to sound composed but couldn't help slipping in a little threat. "This isn't the kind of behavior we expect from you, Fred. Family helps each other. Don't make us rethink our relationship." That line stuck with me. Don't make them rethink the relationship. As if I hadn't already spent years rethinking it. As if I was the one who needed to win back their trust. Then came the guilt text from my mom. Screenshots of Hannah's online portal. Overdue amounts circled in red like she was my accountant. One had a caption. "This will affect her future. Please reconsider." I didn't. The next week, Hannah got dropped from 2 classes. She had to leave her dorm and move back home for a bit. My mom sent a picture of her in the kitchen, unpacking a box. No caption. Just the image. Like I was supposed to see it and break. Instead, I saved it. I'm not sure why. Maybe as a reminder. Then came the panic phase. My parents realized they didn't have the money to cover what I'd been paying. My dad suggested pulling from my old college fund. Which was hilarious, considering they drained most of that to pay for Josh's private school tuition years ago, a decision they said was for the whole family's future. I knew they were flailing when Hannah herself tried calling me at midnight one night. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message. Voice all cracked and rehearsed. "I don't know why you're doing this, Fred. But I didn't do anything to you. I've worked hard. I'm just trying to finish school. Please." And still, no one had said sorry. No one had acknowledged that lunch. That booth. That stupid cutting line. "You can sit at the bar." They weren't sorry. They were just afraid. Good. Because that was just the first string I pulled. There was more to come. More than they realized. And next time, they wouldn't just be short on tuition. They'd be short on everything. 2 weeks after Hannah moved back home, the text stopped being passive-aggressive and turned into something worse, polite. My mom started texting me like I was a potential donor. My dad sent vague questions about my availability for a quick chat. And Hannah just went silent altogether. That silence was louder than anything. She wasn't the type to keep her mouth shut unless someone told her to. I ignored every message, every email, every call. Then I started digging. I went through my bank statements for the last 6 years. It was all there. Every temporary loan, I'd sent them because of a cash flow issue. Every time I covered Hannah's textbooks or Josh's summer program. Every month I chipped in for groceries when my dad was between contracts. All of it added up. No one had ever kept track, except me. I listed every item on a spreadsheet. Dated. Noted. Color-coded. By the end of the week, the total came to $48,612.89. No interest. No repayment plan. No thanks. I had it printed and bound. Nothing dramatic. Just a clean cover page with the words, "Reimbursements pending." Then I set up a dinner. I made the reservation myself. Chose a quiet restaurant where my family couldn't pretend to know someone to get better service. I told my parents we needed to talk, and that I wanted to include someone else this time. When they showed up and saw my grandfather at the table, they paused. He rarely came out for anything other than holidays. He was my dad's father, a retired contractor who never sugarcoated anything. Sharp. Silent. Observant. He didn't even take off his coat until we all sat down. I ordered first. I didn't wait for them. Then I slid the packet across the table. "What's this?" my dad asked. "Records," I said. My mom raised an eyebrow and opened the first page. By the second page, her mouth was pressed into a line. By page 3, she was shaking her head like I was rewriting history. "That was a gift," she said. "No," I said. "You just never paid me back." My dad looked at the total and made a sound like a scoff caught in his throat. "This is ridiculous." My grandfather stayed quiet the whole time. He just read. Page by page. When he finally looked up, he asked one question. "Are all these numbers real?" "Yes." "Did they ask you for this money?" I nodded. "Sometimes directly. Sometimes they just let the situation corner me." He sat back. Took a slow sip of water. Then he looked at my dad. "Then he's not the problem." My mom opened her mouth, but he cut her off. I've already rewritten my will. If either of you expect $1 from me after what I've just read, forget it. You'll get nothing until this is repaid. Fully. With proof. The table went dead silent. My dad leaned forward, probably about to argue, but my grandfather just waved him off. Then he turned to me. Did you keep helping them because you wanted to, or because you thought you had to? I hesitated. Because I didn't think anyone else would. He nodded. That's exactly how they keep people stuck. Then he stood up. Dinner hadn't even been served. He left a $100 bill on the table and said, without looking back, "Call me when this mess is cleaned up." After he left, my parents sat there like statues. For a second, I wondered if they were actually going to apologize. But of course not. My mom said, "You didn't have to humiliate us like that." I said, "And you didn't have to treat me like an outsider at that lunch." "But you did." Then I got up and left. I didn't even wait for the check. I knew they'd be paying this time. And that was only the beginning. They were about to find out just how many things I'd stopped paying for. After the dinner with my grandfather, things went quiet. Not peaceful, just still. Like the silence right before a bridge gives way. My parents didn't call. Not for days. Hannah didn't text. Not even a passive one. But I knew what was happening behind the scenes. My mom was probably digging through old emails and bank records, trying to figure out how much of what I'd claimed was true. My dad was likely fuming, trying to decide whether his pride or his bank account was worth more. Neither of them would admit it, but they knew the old playbook didn't work anymore. Then the second shoe dropped. Josh's tuition invoice came due. He was still in private high school, the same one they pulled me out of senior year because money was tight. I'd forgotten all about that little setup until my dad tried calling 3 times in a row one Thursday morning. I didn't answer. 10 minutes later, I got a forwarded email from the school's billing department. The subject line said, "Urgent payment reminder." I didn't even know I was listed as the emergency financial contact. Apparently, somewhere along the way, they'd filled out forms in my name. Claimed I was a secondary guardian for tuition matters. I'm not sure if it was legal, but I knew it wasn't right. I flagged the account, contacted the school, and requested immediate removal. When they asked for a reason, I didn't hold back. "I'm not responsible for this student. I was listed without consent." An hour later, I got a follow-up email from the school with a CC to my parents confirming the update. That was the first crack. The first one they couldn't plaster over. That night, my mom showed up at my apartment. I didn't let her in. We stood in the hallway while she tried to hold the smile of someone still pretending to be in control. "You're being really dramatic about all this," she said. "We're family. We go through things." "No," I said. "You use people." I finally stopped being useful. She stared at me like I'd spoken a different language. Maybe I had. Maybe they'd gotten so comfortable treating me like an extra set of hands and a spare wallet that the idea of me saying no just didn't register. "You're going to ruin everything," she said. "Do you think Grandpa's serious? You think he'll cut us off over a few misunderstandings?" I didn't say anything. I just let that silence sit. Because the truth was, he'd already sent me an email. A short one. "They won't see $1. I've got it set. Trust only unlocks for you." Quietly. Not that I wanted their inheritance. I'd been fine on my own for years. But I knew they wanted it. Expected it. Counted on it. The next day, my dad tried one last move. He sent me a document. A repayment plan, not for the money they owed me, but for Hannah's tuition. A subtle way of asking me to pick up where I left off. He even labeled it Family Restoration Proposal. Like we were merging companies instead of blood. I forwarded it to my grandfather. He replied, "Unreal." Then he asked me to come by the house that weekend. When I did, he handed me something in an envelope. A statement. From a private account. A number I wasn't prepared for. "They owe you more than money," he said. "But at least now, you'll get something." I didn't ask for details. I just nodded. And I knew then, their empire of guilt was collapsing. Quietly, piece by piece. And I wasn't going to stop it. It was my grandfather's idea to hold a family meeting. He didn't ask, he told me it was happening. Saturday at 3 p.m., at his place. No excuses. I showed up on time. My parents and Hannah were already there, seated stiffly in the living room like kids called into the principal's office. Josh was out, probably on purpose. He didn't have anything to do with the money trail, and I think even my parents knew it was better to keep him out of what was coming. My grandfather didn't waste time. He walked in with a manila folder in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. No greetings, no warm-up. I've gone over everything Fred gave me. Every dollar, every receipt. It's all documented. He dropped the folder on the coffee table. My mom reached for it, but he stopped her. I'm not here to negotiate. My dad cleared his throat. Dad, this is getting a little out of hand. We've had some miscommunications, yes, but we've always taken care of our family. My grandfather nodded once, then looked at me. Fred, tell them what you told me. I took a breath. Not because I was nervous, but because I wanted every word to land. I paid for her tuition for a year and a half. Covered Josh's tutoring, your car down payment, the home repair when the ceiling leaked, the medical bill when Dad needed dental work. All without you asking nicely. Just assuming. I looked straight at Hannah. And not once did you say thank you. Not once did you act like it mattered. My mom shook her head, already preparing her counterattack. Fred, that's not fair. We thought you wanted to help. We never forced you. You didn't have to, I said. You just made me feel like if I didn't, I wasn't part of the family. My grandfather leaned forward. I've redone the trust. Fred is the sole beneficiary. You three get nothing until every dollar is repaid to him. And I mean every dollar. With records. With proof. The silence in the room was crushing. My mom's face went pale. My dad tried to start some kind of argument, but my grandfather just stood up and left the room. No one followed him. For the first time in my life, I watched my parents panic without a script. My mom whispered to my dad, who just stared at the wall like he was trying to solve an equation that kept changing. Hannah finally spoke. I didn't know. It wasn't an apology. Just a statement. A weak defense. I know, I said. But you didn't ask either. We sat there in awkward silence for another few minutes before I stood up. I don't want anything from you. Not now. Not ever. Just the truth. I turned to leave, but right before I reached the door, my dad said something I didn't expect. We'll pay it back. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. They would, because now, for the first time in their lives, they had something real to lose. And I wasn't done yet. The first payment hit my account on a Monday morning. $1,500. No message. No explanation. Just money dropped into the same account I'd once used to cover their messes. I stared at it for a minute, then moved on with my day. A few days later, another $2,000 came in. Then $850. Random amounts from different accounts. I recognized none of the banks. It was clear they were liquidating what they could without setting off alarms, pulling from savings, cashing out CDs, maybe even borrowing. The drip payments continued for 3 weeks. They didn't reach out. I didn't say a word either. Then Hannah texted me. Just 4 words, can we please talk? I let the message sit unread for a full day before I responded. If you want to talk, meet me at Grandpa's porch. Saturday. Noon. No one else. Saturday came. I got there early. Brought coffee and sat in silence until her car pulled up. She walked up the steps like she was crossing a minefield. No makeup, no phone in her hand, which told me she actually wanted to talk, not document something. She didn't say hello, just sat down on the other end of the bench and stared out at the empty road. After 5 minutes, she asked, "How long have you hated us?" I didn't answer right away. I looked at the worn edges of the porch, the same boards we used to jump on as kids, hoping to hear a creak. "I never hated you," I said. "I just realized you never saw me. Not as a brother. Not as family. Just a resource." She looked down, then reached into her bag and pulled out a folded envelope. Inside was a personal check. $3,000. In her own handwriting. She'd scribbled for Fred in the memo line. "It's what I could pull together," she said. "None of it's from Mom or Dad." I nodded but didn't say thank you. I wasn't there for reconciliation. I was there to see if she'd actually show up. She did. That was something. That night I got a call from Grandpa. Saw her leaving. She looked like someone who's been made to think for the first time in years. I don't know what she's thinking, I said. Doesn't matter. You do. Then he told me something I didn't expect. I talked to the lawyer. The trust stays yours. But there's a clause now. He explained it simply. If my parents repaid every cent and submitted a signed letter admitting fault, no excuses, no spins, I could choose to share the inheritance with them. Not automatically. Just if I wanted. But don't tell them that, he said. They need to learn that bridges don't rebuild themselves. I laughed. They'll never do it. He was quiet for a moment. I don't think they will either. But maybe Hannah will. By the end of the month, over $15,000 had been returned. No apologies. Just damage control. My parents didn't want forgiveness, they wanted leverage. They thought money would fix what years of entitlement and silence had corroded. It didn't. They never once said the word sorry. So I stopped waiting for it. I moved to a different apartment. Cut them off entirely. Even changed my number. I kept the paper trail. I kept the receipts. And I kept the trust documents in a locked drawer. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was done. For the first time, I understood what it meant to draw a line and hold it. I wasn't their backup plan. I wasn't their fixer. I was Fred. And I had finally walked away clean. Update. 3 months went by. Silence. Blissful, uninterrupted silence. The payments stopped around the $17,000 mark. No surprise. I figured they'd hit the limit of what they could squeeze out without imploding their own finances. I had no intention of chasing them down for the rest. Let them sit in the discomfort of unfinished business. They'd never felt that before. They'd always passed it to me. Then something unexpected showed up in my mailbox. A letter. Real paper, real envelope. No return address, just my name handwritten in ink. Inside was a single-page note. Typed. Signed at the bottom in my dad's handwriting. It wasn't an apology. Not really. But it also wasn't what I expected. There were no excuses, no justifications. Just an admission. We failed to treat you like part of the family. We relied on you when we shouldn't have. We forgot you had a choice. That was it. No. We love you. No. We're sorry. Just a weirdly formal confession. The kind of thing someone writes when they've been told there's something at stake. I kept reading it over, trying to figure out why it felt so strategic. Then I remembered the clause. They didn't know the details, but they knew Grandpa had made changes. Maybe they were hoping that note would count as an admission. A crack at the money. I put the letter in a drawer and didn't respond. But something about it kept nagging at me. It wasn't the words, it was the timing. Too calculated. Too clean. Something else was going on. The next week, I found out what it was. Grandpa called and asked if I'd checked the tax records on the old family house lately. I hadn't. He said. They took out a second mortgage 3 years ago. Quietly. That letter wasn't for you. It was for the bank. They listed you as a guarantor without telling you. I froze. That's not possible. It is, he said. And if you don't get ahead of it, you're going to be on the hook when they default. They'd used my name. Again. Without asking. This time, it wasn't tuition. It was their damn house. I didn't even yell. I didn't feel anything. I just sat there for a while, letting the next move form in my head. Because I knew what I had to do. This time, there would be no quiet exit. No silent boundary. I was going to burn every bridge they tried to rebuild, and make sure they knew exactly why.